Today on Robot Whores, James May huffs 50 pounds of smoke fumes. Richard Hammond tongues Matilda in a back alley. And I host the greatest robot combat series in the world. What can you say about Jeremy Clarkson? Co-presenter of Top Gear and Top Gear Amazon, I mean, the Grand Tour. He's certainly a figure that generates a lot of controversy, and if you get on the wrong side of him, you may end up with a few less teeth. However, he's often forgotten as a presenter of the first series of Robot Wars, and is the only main presenter of the show to exclusively do only one. Since leaving for other commitments, he's been conspicuously removed from any future Robot Wars media, since any footage always includes him cropped out despite being a major part of the beginning. But my main question is, was Clarkson a suitable host for the series, or was he a perfect fit? In short, no. And I have nothing against him myself, but I never really felt like he fit in with the show and how it was meant to come across to the audience at home. Now, he had his positive qualities during his brief time on screen, and they can at least highlight it. He seemed to enjoy his time presenting, as evidenced by him wanting to see all the bots behind the scenes and see how they functioned. Some of his one-liners and deliveries were hilarious, and his shtick of calling the house robots his mates gave him a personal attachment to them and made it even more hilarious when they were defeated. Despite these though, I still think Craig Charles is more of a suitable fit for the show going forward, and I'm here to discuss the reasons behind this. Jeremy Clarkson is a man whose dry, blunt and controversial attitude for presenting shows has always been the main appeal of his on-camera persona. The man's by no means a stranger to backlash for what he said, but his attitude of not really caring about what he's saying, similar to comedians like Frankie Boyle and Jimmy Carr, makes him a divisive TV personality for sure. In a show like Top Gear, his style works to his advantage with his fellow co-hosts, Captain Slow,
Cheese,
and the hamster loves to crash cars, work well off each other and know what to expect in both scripted and improvised material. Hell, he made a show about cars interesting, and that for me is a testament to his strong presence. Plus, Top Gear is aimed for adults who like cars and or want some banter between two mates who have worked together for over 20 years. So in this case, telling controversial and edgy jokes isn't much of an issue, unless you're from Argentina. The same can't be said for Robot Wars, however. Now, this doesn't mean that Top Gear can't and doesn't achieve this appeal. However, the jokey banter may not always come across as banter if it's done in a certain way. Unfortunately, Clarkson's delivery often comes across as a little bit too mean-spirited, as his normally dry persona is now being delivered to people who may not be able to take the joke. When you really think about it, the Roboteers are human at the end of the day, and most people don't like hearing the host telling their robot is a piece of litter, or the worst robot I have ever seen. Looking at you, Prince of Darkness. If you're a team that's put maybe months of work into a bot and it just fails at the first hurdle, I'd imagine you'd be upset as well, like the Warthog team. Sure, teams like Nemesis Boys and Plunderberg Crew will be fine, but most aren't as forgiving. Plus, sincerity is not really Jeremy's strong point. Sure, he can be sincere during parts of Top Gear where the group encounters some beautiful scenery or amazing wildlife, but these are things that I imagine anyone would be taken aback by. There weren't as many moments as Clarkson comforting a contestant when things went wrong, and it was mostly a jokey attitude instead. Plus, when the team were genuinely upset, he never looked comfortable dealing with it, like the aforementioned Warthog example. Presumably, a lot of people would have a similar reaction. You need that positive attitude to really handle the variety of Roboteers who enter the show, and Clarkson just didn't have that under his belt. Now, Craig Charles, famous for playing Lister in Red Dwarf, was brought in to replace Jeremy for Series 2 and went all the way to the classic series end. I've always felt that Craig was a perfect fit for the show, and, at least until Series 5 anyway, he was always a great part of the show. Craig was always comfortable when talking to any age group, and his interactions felt genuine, apart from near the end when his enthusiasm seemed to somewhat disappear. This made him a lot better than Clarkson in my opinion, who was a bit more restricted in his humour and demeanour. His opening monologues were better delivered in my opinion, opening the show to a welcoming atmosphere. One major thing going for Craig was his diverse skill set outside of presenting. During his career he's been an actor, comedian, radio broadcaster, DJ, and poet. His large repertoire of skills have allowed him to interact with many different age groups and environments. In comparison, Clarkson has really only been a presenter and journalist in major outlets, and while it doesn't make him terrible in these fields, he hasn't really had much diversity as Charles throughout his career. Craig can interact with larger audiences whilst DJing and being on stage, and can be personal while acting and presenting. Clarkson has since done some more ventures, most notably presenting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which involved a lot more public interaction, and his presenting in that show has been very good in my opinion. But you know, he's typical Jezza's self, but in almost every way, Craig outclassed his predecessor just by looking a lot more personable on camera. Lastly, Craig hasn't really had any controversies attached to him. Apart from a false sexual assault claim, nothing's really been too detrimental. The only other thing was a battle with drug addiction, but I don't really see that as a controversy, more so as an issue that needs to be resolved. Plus, as long as the person is willing and committed to change and seek help, then I can't hold it against them. Clarkson seems to have not got that message. Overall, Clarkson wasn't a terrible host for the show. He had a comedic side, seemed to have fun while on set, and did at least leave on a positive note, and not because he didn't want to do it anymore. Unfortunately, the style of his comedy and presenting didn't really mesh well with me. But, you know, maybe he might have got better over time if he had 2 successful shows under his belt with Top Gear and Robot Wars, but that future wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. At least he was there for the conception of all my favourite shows of all time, and for that, I can't thank him enough. Also, he was better than Mick Foley. I mean, he